Hello, somebody. I never thought I'd say this, but there is some good news when it comes to Norfolk trying to destroy everyone in its path. And the good news is that the Supreme Court of the United States said, get this mess out of here. We're not playing with you. Opponents of unmitigated corporate power celebrated Tuesday when the US Supreme Court rejected Norfolk's attempt to limit where companies can be sued. Common Dreams, thank you. In a 5-4 opinion written by Justice Neil Gorsuch and joined by Justices Clarence Thomas, Lord have mercy on all my souls, Samuel Alito, Sonja Sotomayor, and Ketanji Brown Jackson, the High Court ruled Pennsylvania's consent by registration law requiring an out-of-state firm to answer in the Commonwealth any suit against it in exchange for status as a registered foreign corporation and the benefits that entails does not violate due process clause of the 14th Amendment. Now this stems from a case long before the disastrous train derailment in East Palestine in February of this year. In 2017, months after being diagnosed with colon cancer, former Norfolk worker Robert Mallory filed a lawsuit alleging that his illness stemmed from workplace exposure to asbestos and other hazardous materials, and that the rail carrier failed to provide safety equipment and other resources to ensure he was sufficiently protected on the job. Now, although he never worked in Pennsylvania, Mallory filed his lawsuit in Philadelphia County Court of Common Pleas because his attorneys were from the state and he thought he would get the fairest access to justice there. Ashley Keller, the lawyer representing him before the US Supreme Court, told The Lever in February. And speaking of East Palestine, this ruling has major implications for the residents of this city. The American Association of Railroads, the rail industry's largest lobby, filed a brief last September on behalf of Norfolk, AAR, and other powerful corporate lobbying groups such as the US Chamber of Commerce, the National Association of Manufacturers, and the American Trucking Association. They sought to undermine the ability of workers and consumers to file lawsuits in the venue of their choosing. President Joe Biden's administration, meanwhile, came under fire earlier this year when The Lever revealed that the US Department of Justice had also filed a brief siding with the railroad giants behind the toxic derailment in East Palestine, Ohio. Yes, folks, America, you heard me right. And this is especially for the neoliberals. I'm gonna read this one more good time because it wasn't President Donald J. Trump. President Joe Biden's administration, meanwhile, came under fire this year when The Lever revealed that the US Department of Justice had filed a brief siding with the railroad giants behind the toxic derailment in East Palestine, Ohio, and Trump did not make them do it. Furthermore, if Norfolk had prevailed, it could have been easier for the profitable rail carrier to thwart pending and future lawsuits on the grounds that they're filed in the wrong venue. The Lever reported, citing Scott Nelson, an attorney with the Public Citizens Litigation Group, which filed a brief backing Mallory. At particular risk would have been lawsuits filed by residents exposed to hazardous chemicals as a result of accidents in other states, including victims of air or water pollution stemming from the disaster in East Palestine, 5 miles west of the Pennsylvania state border. And speaking of those residents, let us call back what many of them are still dealing with.
I had breathed in chemicals and I had a raw rash all over my lips that took about 3 weeks to get rid of. Just recently, like when it rains, my basement floods with chemicals and my nose starts gushing blood. I choke on it. It's terrible. And my house hasn't even been tested. It's not in priority for Norfolk Southern, but I'm getting sick every single day, whether it be a cough, a bloody nose, just fatigued. I mean, it's terrible.
And still to this point, it's still affecting you in that way.
Yes, and it's just been getting like progressively worse for me. Like my cough, my allergies, my nosebleeds. Like at first it was like one nosebleed here and there, and now it's constant. Like I have to worry about what I'm wearing because I'm scared I'm gonna get blood on my shirt.
Nobody can tell the story like the residents of East Palestine, and it is important for us to remind you that even though mainstream media, thank you Status Quo, although mainstream media has almost forgotten about East Palestine, we want you to know here on Unbossed, we have not forgotten about East Palestine, Ohio, and putting a face to what is happening there, and suffering is always, it's a good thing because we don't want you to forget and we don't want you to become numb. So Jessica, this is some really good news for people all over the country, but especially in this moment for the residents of East Palestine.
It's really good news because what we're seeing over the past week from the National Transportation Safety Board fact-finding hearing is that those rail cars may have been unnecessarily burned. So that means that folks have been harmed by what they did, breathing those chemicals in when they may have done it to cut costs, not because it was necessary. And so this ruling's a good one, that if you're doing business in a state, you can and should be sued in that state. If you do something as egregious as this, corporations, the fact that Norfolk Southern thought they could sue and bring this case to the Supreme Court tells you everything you need to know about how much power corporations know that they have in this country. So this is a step in the right direction.
It really is. I mean, the Supreme Court of the United States has been surprising me as of late between the voting rights stuff and this. My God, yeah, keep it up, Supreme Court. Keep going in this direction.